This is Chippy from Ultrabook News, and Happy New Year 2012, January the 3rd. I've got the Samsung NP350 here right now. Last 2 months of last year I was testing Ultrabooks pretty heavily, tested about 4 or 5 of them for ultrabooknews.com with a view to buying one myself for CES reporting starting in January, next Monday, stay tuned for that. But I've actually ended up with the Samsung NP350, which is not an Ultrabook, but it is very Ultrabook-like and actually a very good value device as well. And in fact, for anyone that's looking to step up from netbooks over across to a higher power device without really losing those sort of price advantages of a netbook or the weight as well. This one's 1.4 kilograms and priced in the UK £429, I think I paid for it at Amazon.co.uk, which is a really good price and around half the UK price of an Ultrabook. So with 4 gigabytes of RAM, 600 gig hard drive, of course, not SSD, matte screen, very similar sort of specs to Ultrabook. But I've had it for a couple of weeks, and in this video I want to give you a look around the device and tell you a bit about the features and what I think about the features, the good points, the bad points, and how it compares with Ultrabooks as well. So here we are, NP350. A very quick unboxing for you to talk about some of the specs. Basic packaging here really indicates that this is kind of a value product. Doesn't compare at all to the unboxing experience you get on the Samsung Series 9 devices, and in fact many of the Ultrabooks, although the Acer Aspire S3 had some fairly basic packaging as well. Just quickly in the box though, show you what you've got here. Manuals. We've actually got a recovery media disc as well, so that's kind of interesting, especially considering there's a 600 gig drive on the NP350, which already has a recovery partition in it. Here's a VGA adapter, so it is a true VGA output on the device, but they have a very small connector, same as actually the Samsung Series 9 devices, and there's the VGA adapter there, and a fairly standard 19 volt Samsung power unit and cable. So nothing special there, and as I said, fairly basic packaging. So the Samsung NP350 is a Core i3 based device, nominal 2.2 gigahertz, and of course speed stepping brings that down to 800. So you've got very similar CPU clock rate range as you get on Ultrabooks, which run nominal 1.6 but have the 800 gigahertz sort of power saving mode and the 2.3 gigahertz to 2.8 in some cases turbo boost. So in terms of CPU performance, very similar, but it's a mobile CPU in here, which means once you start getting up to higher clock rates it uses a lot more energy than a ULV processor that you'll find on an Ultrabook. And in fact, in some tests I've done, I've seen up to 40% more power usage, not just CPU power usage, overall power usage compared to an Ultrabook. So ULV CPUs do have some advantages, although in sort of average testing in terms of sort of office usage, text input, there's really not that much difference. And what Samsung have done here is really done away with a bit of the style, a bit of the thin and light features, some of these special materials that you find on an Ultrabook, and have made it simple, and have managed to cram in, although it's a sealed unit, a 60 watt hour battery. Now that is bigger than any battery I've seen on an Ultrabook so far, and when you compare it to the Acer S3, which has a 37 watt hour battery, it's something like 70% more battery capacity. So although you've got a more powerful, a more power hungry CPU, you've got power capacity, and in many scenarios this will outlast many of the Ultrabooks I've tested as well. So we're looking at the back, you'll see a memory slot here, so it comes with 4 gigs on this model anyway, and you can go up to 8 gigs in there for a very easy change. There is no way really to access the battery, but of course you'll be able to undo the back and access the disk. And that's one thing I will be doing, is looking to swap the hard drive for an SSD. At the moment I'm looking at probably I think it's my digital SSD or a Run Core Pro 4, something around the $150, $180 mark for 128 gigs, which should boost the performance nicely on it. So let's go around some of the ports. And nice A nice feature about this, really, when you compare it to some of the Ultrabooks, is it's got all the ports there that you need. Power, full Ethernet port with a sort of funny little pull down flap there, which does indicate that, you know, it's fairly thin, a little bit too thin to put a full Ethernet port on there. Haven't really tested that out though, and I'm not sure how it's going to last long term. If that breaks off, the port is probably useless. Full HDMI, USB 2 there, and on the other side you'll see another USB 2, so there's no USB 3.0 on this, although this does have sleep and charge capability. Here's the VGA port, and that's where the adapter comes in, Kensington lock, and a combo headphone, microphone port, and SDHC card slot. So you've got a good range of ports there, nothing on the back, although you've got the CPU venting on the back. Quick word about that. In terms of fan, there is a bigger fan in this. Clearly it's got to cool a 37 watt TDP CPU compared to the 17 watt TDPUs that you get, sorry, I think it's 34. Anyway, a lot more potential power drain and power usage than the Ultrabooks, which means you need to extract the air, keep it cool, bigger fan output. Having said that, it's quite quiet, and there is a silent mode, and in general office usage you won't hear the fan. And that, compared to something like the Toshiba Z830, which has a very annoying fan buzz, is a real advantage, and Samsung seems to have done a good job there. Plastic materials though, and the it really doesn't feel, you know, Ultrabook quality, although I will say it doesn't look that bad from the front anyway. You've got a sort of matte, and this may even be a could be a very well designed plastic actually. I think it's plastic. It does collect smudge marks. It's not a fingerprint magnet, but if you've got greasy fingers, those smudges will stay on there and they're quite difficult to get off. And looking around, you know, it's not the thinnest of devices. And you can see really netbook comparisons, because it's not much bigger than some of the sort of 11.6 inch netbooks. And the reason it's not much bigger is if we open it up, you'll see that Samsung have got a very, very thin bezel screen on this. There's the quick start, by the way. They do have a quick start feature. It's only a couple of seconds to get up and running, and the network is connected, so no disadvantage over the Ultrabook there. But here, look at the bezel. It's a 12.5 inch screen, 1366 by 768, and what they've managed to do, I think, is managed to keep the width down and the depth down by putting the ultra thin bezel in there. So 1.4 kilos, and very much the same sort of size as a larger netbook, a 11.6 inch netbook. Something like the Lenovo S205 compares very well to this, because the keyboard is pretty good on this as well. Chiclet style keyboard. Here we've got the UK version, and I'm really enjoying this. It's got access to features as well. Power button on the top right. Okay, small cursor buttons, but you're getting a nice full shift button on the right, smaller one on the left. And the Elantec, I believe it is, touchpad is, you know, it works. There's nothing special about it, but it's not causing me any problems. And the mouse buttons are fairly reasonable as well. There's no heavy click, loud click, or extra pressure needed on those than you would expect. So really nice. And actually the fascia looks pretty good. Nice that they've done white on black keys. No backlight on the keyboard, but it's a fairly high contrast key set, so that's pretty good as well. Let me just put that back into standby, and you'll see that it's got a matte screen. So for those of you that are a little bit more mobile, you might be interested in the matte screen. But having said that, it's not the best screen out there, and certainly compared to the Samsung Series 9, they've clearly used cheaper off-the-shelf parts than they could have done. The Samsung Series 9 has a much brighter, much higher contrast, much more punchy screen that goes to a higher brightness level. This is okay. Now I wasn't expecting too much on this, but viewing angles on the left and right are not too bad. Up and down, it's getting into sort of cheap display territory there. But really not too bad if you're a single user using it in an office. Just that the outdoor brightness might not be good enough for you. So I talked about the specs. Core i3, 2.2 gigahertz. We've got 4 gigabytes of RAM in this, and a 600 gigabyte spinning hard drive. So lots of storage. It's split into 2 partitions in this case. Now you could of course upgrade that to an SSD if you needed. Webcam, we've got Bluetooth 3 plus HS on this, plus an Intel Centrino, I think it's 100 series Wi-Fi, which has Wi-Di capability. There's only a one antenna Wi-Fi, but I find the reception quality to be pretty good on this, and certainly as good as some of the better Ultrabooks, and way better than the Samsung Series 9 Ultrabook or Ultrabook Lite device that I tested recently. So that's really, really nice. Speaker volume is okay, nothing special on the speaker volume, and there's no major sort of heat build up in normal use, although when you start to really get it cooking you get heat build up across the top and the back here, and the fan exhaust comes up across the front. You can actually feel it when you put your hands near the screen, which is not so good. So I want to quickly mention battery life. Now we're idle here, Wi-Fi connected, screen on, showing 6 hours 48 minutes with 97% remaining. This has a huge dynamic range of operating modes. You can sit here and type text for a good 7 to 8 hours, I would say. In fact, I've done some tests already, and 7 were average for sort of typing, Wi-Fi on, a bit of maybe background streaming. It's going to bring you 8+ hours of typing capability. Start to use Office apps, etc., and you'll be down to about 6 hours, but still that's very, very good. The only downside really is that, as I mentioned earlier, you've got a mobile processor here, and when you start to push it really hard, the drain rate goes up really, really high. So for gaming, for video converting, you may only get 1 hour out of this, as it can potentially go to 43, 42, 40 watts of power drain, power usage when you're really, really loading it. About 30 to 35 would be an average if you're really sort of playing a game and doing some video editing, perhaps, video rendering. So bear that in mind. This is classic Core mobile CPU issue compared to Core ULV, ultra low voltage CPUs that are used in the Ultrabooks. Just one or two things to mention that I forgot there. 1.3 megapixel webcam, and there is Gigabit Ethernet on that Ethernet port as well, so it's not just a 10100, it's a proper Gigabit Ethernet port, so really well suited to office environments, and actually I think the performance here would be more than enough for word processing, for email, for web type work, and for me personally, I'll be using it for some video editing and video conversion as well, because remember, you've got Intel QuickSync video inside here, which is hardware encoding, hardware decoding of various video formats. It will play 1080p no problem. I was actually using this yesterday in the YouTube lean back mode for 1080p videos out to my lounge television, and it was working very, very nicely. No hiccups at all. Applications are quick to start up, and there's really no issues in terms of web performance at all. Let's just quickly show you a YouTube 1080p that we should be able to pick up fairly quickly. Yeah, Big Buck Bunny. Here's your classic, and we'll switch that straight to 1080p, and we'll go to full screen, and that should stream pretty nicely over my local network there. And if we just go to CPU usage, that is running in around, let it settle, 25% CPU. So there's a quick look round the Samsung NP350, which is not a netbook, it's not an Ultrabook, it's really a good lightweight, good value laptop, and I'll be using it at least for the next couple of months, perhaps while I wait for information on the next gen Ultrabooks that have come out and the next wave that we'll see at CES next week. It's not available everywhere. It's available in the UK, I've seen it in Poland, I've seen it available in some of the Arab countries, I think Australia, and also in the US, but really different pricing in various areas. For example, in the US you get the Core i5 version for I think $600. In the UK it's the Core i3 version. It's not available in Germany at all as far as I know. So check out availability in your area, check out the prices, and keep a lookout for offers on it, because it's really a good value notebook. And if you're looking to wait till next year, till the next gen of Ultrabooks come out with Ivy Bridge or laptops, this will make a great bridge laptop. So, my name's Shippy, ultrabooknews.com is where I'll be reporting more about this and on all Ultrabooks. We'll be at CES next week. From Sunday the 8th, news starts, and we're tracking Ultrabooks, netbooks, tablets, maybe the odd UMPC too, who knows. But you can check us out on ultrabooknews.com, carrypad.com and umpcportal.com. Thanks for watching.